All right, so over the course of this class, we've frequently talked about how comic books as a medium are much broader than just kind of like the general categories. It's not just, superheroes and manga and, comic strips. There's the potential for really mature stories here, and the one I have to recommend to you today is definitely one of such a nature. It's called Pride of Baghdad, and it's kind of an interesting it's kind of an interesting gateway between the more kid-friendly comics and something a little bit more mature, because on the one hand you have these four anthropomorphic lions who are, I mean, and they're not anthropomorphic, they walk on all four legs and they don't wear clothes, but they clearly have human level intelligence and talk with human conversations. And they live in the Baghdad Zoo during the early days of the Iraq War. And the very first panel, you have this bird swinging down from the sky, screaming, "The sky is falling! The sky is falling!" And the lions are looking at each other like, "What on earth is he talking about?" And then suddenly you've got, a squad of F-18s who fly at low altitude and drop bombs on the zoo, obliterating the entire complex. So the lions, who were previously formulating plans of escape, are now suddenly free, and so they find themselves wandering the ruins of war-torn Baghdad for the rest of the story. And what's especially interesting is that you got these lions who are they're philosophically debating the concept of freedom, because on the one hand, they've wanted freedom, they've wanted it all their lives, they wanted to escape the zoo, but on the other hand, freedom has complications. The zoo at least guaranteed there were 3 meals a day and a roof over your head. But with freedom, you have to, drink right out of the river Tigris, which is filthy and polluted, and you have to scavenge for food wherever you can find it. And so even though they definitely want it, there are still certain complications that come with it. And what's especially interesting, that I think with the situation in Ukraine and ongoing refugee crises in the Middle East and elsewhere, is when it comes to the war in Iraq itself, the comic takes a rather neutral point of view. It doesn't treat it as oh, we should support this side or we should support that side. It treats it more as yeah, that's just something the humans do every once in a while. They just start fighting and killing each other, and it just causes nothing but chaos and destruction. But at the same time, it's something there's a scene when you see a squadron of tanks pull up, and the lions, they don't say, "Oh, it's those damn Americans" or "It's those damn Iraqis." They just say, "Okay, that thing is scary, run out of the way," because they're looking at it from the point of view of an animal. And I think that is one of several moments that I think generates a very interesting discussion that is appropriate in both private settings, just for reading for your leisure, and for general discussions. And I think for that, it's a comic that is definitely intended for a more older audience, I would say teenagers and above, but at the same time, it's one that is especially entertaining and especially relevant, and I would definitely recommend it. So I take pride in saying, go read Pride of Baghdad.